Brian, I'm up, man.
Hello, Denise. Hello, Brian. Can you hear me? You hear me? Can you hear me, guys? Just nod your head so I can. Give me a thumbs up if you hear me.
Shalom Aleichem, Rov.
Hi, Brian. You still here?
Baruch Hashem.
Where are you?
Ira Kodesh.
Wow, all the way from the holy city. I'm honored.
Thank you.
Okay, so you can obviously hear me. Hello, Jonty.
Hello, Rabbi. Hello, everybody.
Hello, Stan. Hello, Denise. Still got a few minutes to go. People are still arriving. So the next 3 weeks, we do 2 chapters of Shabbos. This Shabbos, we do chapters 1 and 2. Next week, 3 and 4, and then 5 and 6 to finish the whole thing again before Rosh Hashanah. So I actually made a mistake last week. I realized afterwards. I taught chapter 6 last week, and we were really up to chapter 5. But God was guiding me because otherwise we wouldn't be able to finish. I'm doing 6 now. How am I going to do another 6 in 2 weeks? So we're going to do aspects of 1 and 2 today. And please God, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that will conclude this this series of Ethics from Sinai at Rosh Hashanah. So we'll finish the day before Rosh Hashanah. I'm still getting the hang of putting this on YouTube. I hope I get it right today.
This morning, the trucks were
Okay.
on the road.
I hope the YouTube is on. And I'm looking for a minion so we can start. Where's my holy quorum? I mean, we used to get 30. Where is everybody? They think they know it all. I'm learning new stuff every week. Okay. All right, so if you have an Art Scroll sitter, you can
What's it?
go to page
Ethics of Sana.
551 in English. I'm going to do the introduction. We have spoken about it once before. That's many weeks ago. I'm going to say some other things about it, which we did not discuss. And it's just on 5 o'clock. I'll wait one more minute, and then we're going to start because I have to leave at 5:30 so I can get to Shul for Mincha now. No longer am I doing Zoom from the house. We're doing Mincha live from Shul. Okay. Hello, Hilly. Hello, Levy family. Hello, Harvey. Oh, hello, Nadine, Barry, Lewis, whoever's there behind the mask.
Coronavirus cases are rising in Jesu public 7-day rate of 20 COVID-19 cases.
My wife keeps reminding me to stop shuckling when I give a share. Does it disturb you if I shuckle? Hello, Denise. Hello, Brian. It just comes naturally. Hello, Barry. So we welcome Brian Owen all the way from Jerusalem. Brian and Vivian went to Israel this week to be with their children for over Yontif. Can you hear me, guys? I hear you loud and clear. That's me. Sorry, that's me from the YouTube. Okay, not to worry. I'll close that. Okay, we're ready to roll, guys. We got to get moving. We're only 9, but we're going to start. So this is a new series, a new cycle, because we finished, I think, how many cycles? 3. From Pesach to now, I think we've done 3 cycles. So this is now the 4th cycle. And we are, okay, we got a minion. Hello, Zelda. Right, so we are going to do aspects of chapters 1 and 2 this week, 3 and 4 next week, 5 and 6 the following. So we will finish another cycle of all 6 chapters before Rosh Hashanah. And then after Yontif, we'll see if we start a new series of some kind, because we will have finished Pirkei Avos. Okay. Kol Yisrael Yesh Lem Chelek L'Olam Haba. This is the introduction to Pirkei Avot. Whenever we say it on Shabbos after Mincha, between Pesach and Rosh Hashanah, we give this introduction from the Mishnah in the book of Sanhedrin. All of Israel have a share in the world to come. Shenemar, as it's written, V'amech kulam tzadikim, your people are all righteous. L'olam yeshu oretz, they shall inherit the land forever. Neitzer matoi, they are the branch of my planting, says Hashem about the Jewish people. Maseh yodai, they are the work of my hands. L'hispoer, in which to take pride. So this is the introduction to Pirkei Avot every week. And we did touch on it the first time, but I'm going to touch on other things now. So all of Israel have a share in the world to come. In other words, don't think that even though we're speaking about the ethics of the fathers, and we said originally, way back when in our original introduction, that the ethics of the fathers, Pirkei Avot, is called Milid Chasadusa, matters of piety, that are beyond the letter of the law. That's not strictly halacha, it's ethics. It's ethical behavior beyond the letter of the law. Don't just be a halachically compliant Jew, be a dedicated, ethical, moral Jew, be a mensch. Don't just look for legal loopholes, do what's right. So that's what the theme of Ethics of the Fathers is. So you might think, well, that's too much to ask of me. I'm just an ordinary oak. I mean, how am I gonna behave on such a high ethical standard? I'm just a little ordinary me, mediocre me. So the Mishnah begins, all of Israel have a share in the world to come. All of Israel are righteous. Beyond the letter of the law is not beyond you. You are great. You are a tzaddik. Okay, you and I know that we're not all tzaddikim, but you have to understand compared to what, compared to who, and all of us will have a share in the world to come because we are all righteous, and we have many good deeds under our belt. Even if we make mistakes now and then, every Jew does so many mitzvahs. The Talmud says even a bad Jew, if there is such a thing, is full of mitzvahs like a pomegranate is full of pips, which is quite full, right? So every Jew is full of mitzvahs and therefore is righteous, basically, and therefore will inherit Olam Haba. Now the question the commentaries pose is, which exact Olam Haba are we talking about here? Olam Haba means the world to come. But what is the world to come? You know, there are two worlds to come. Did you know that? There is Gan Eden, paradise, where the soul goes after 120. The body goes to West Park and the soul goes up. And the soul is going to, please God, heaven or Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, or paradise or Olam Haba. But then Mashiach is going to come, please God, soon, and then there's going to be the revival of the dead. When the revival of the dead happens, those souls up in heaven will come back down to this world and inhabit their previously dead bodies. I know it sounds fantastic and phantasmagoric and unbelievable, and it sounds like an Alfred Hitchcock movie. All these dead people arising, it seems scary. But if God could create us from scratch, he can surely recreate us. And it's the 13th principle of faith that there will be the revival of the dead. So the first stage of the world to come is the soul alone without the body up in heaven. The second and final and ultimate and highest stage of Olam Haba is actually after Mashiach, after the revival of the dead, when the soul and its body will be reunited. And we will be able to do mitzvahs, physical mitzvahs here in this world once again. So the commentaries tell us that is the Olam Haba that the Mishnah here is talking about. When we say all of Israel have a share in the world to come, it means the world of the revival of the dead. So that means that it could be a person will be judged harshly when they die, and their soul will go up, and he may have to go someplace else other than heaven first to clean himself up, to get refined, to get rehabilitated, and then he'll go into heaven. But all of Israel have a share in the world to come, and that means we'll be enjoy the revival of the dead because you are righteous. All of Israel is righteous. Now, in Sanhedrin, where this Mishnah comes from, right before this Mishnah, you know what it says? It speaks about capital punishment. It's in the book of Sanhedrin in the Gemara. Sanhedrin is the Jewish Supreme Court, and they were the ones who would give rulings and judgments on capital cases. And it sometimes happened, maybe once in 7 years or once in 70 years. It didn't happen too often, but once in a blue moon, it happened that somebody, a Jew, was actually executed, received capital punishment for a particular sin that he had done. And the Mishnah speaks about that. The very next Mishnah, after discussing capital punishment, says, all of Israel have a share in the world to come. What do you mean? We just put this guy to death because he did something vile. He killed somebody or whatever. Even he will have a share in the world to come. How does that work? Because the world to come we're speaking about is the world after Mashiach, after the revival of the dead, when the souls will come back to re-inhabit their bodies. So the person was put to death by the court.
Yes, sir.
His body was laid to rest. His soul went up on high. Maybe it didn't go to heaven immediately. But after Mashiach comes, that soul will have a share in the world to come and will be reunited with its body and be revived here in this world. Because when he was put to death, that was his punishment. And in Judaism, punishment is not just punitive. Oh, you came late, go stand in the corner and wear the dunce cap. What value does that punishment have? No value. You just put the kid down for life. Punishment has to be rehabilitative. That's why our prisons are so useless. That's why prison doesn't exist in Judaism. Prison doesn't work. Punishment has to be transformative and rehabilitative. If a person got lashes, God forbid, he learned his lesson. He's not going to do that again, I promise you. If a person had to pay a fine, 20% more than what he stole, he's going to learn that crime does not pay. If a person, God forbid, did such a heinous crime that he was put to death for that crime, his death is his punishment and is also his atonement. If a person got lashes, once he got lashes, he's a tzaddik again. He's paid his price. He's innocent again. The slate is clean. If a person was put to death, his soul has paid the price, and his soul is now clean, and his soul will merit the world to come. Which world to come? After Mashiach, his soul will be reunited with his body. The Amech Kulam Tzadikim. He proves it from a verse that says, your people are all righteous. All the Jews are righteous. Is that true? Do we have consensus on this, guys? Is every Jew so righteous? I see some people are nodding horizontally, which means that they know a few Jews who are not necessarily of the highest purity. So I think we probably all do. Maybe we know ourselves, who knows? The point is, regardless of a Jew's imperfections, he has so many good deeds that are of redeeming virtue and value and are of eternal value and will stand him in good stead eternally. Secondly, the Amech Kulam Tzadikim, all your people are righteous. The word Kulam, some of the commentators interpret that the people are righteous. The community, the nation is righteous. The collective of Jews is righteous. Yes, we may have a couple of rotten apples in the bushel, but basically the Jewish people are a wonderful, holy people. Rabbi Stern mentioned today in his shofar blowing video, the word tzibur, the community, the congregation is called a tzibur in Hebrew, which we're told is a combination of three words, tzadikim, beinonim, rishoim, the righteous, the middle of the road, and the not so righteous, spells tzibur. Every community has all kinds, and therefore it says we should rather daven with a minyan, because even if we are not so righteous personally, when we attach ourselves to the community, in the community there are righteous people, there are good people, so we can get in our prayers under their coattails, so to speak. And therefore davening with a minyan is so much more effective than davening alone. That's a plug for people to start coming back to shul, please God, all being well. So that's number one. Now, number two, what do the average anti-Semites say? You know that famous line from anti-Semites? Some of my best friends are Jewish, right? Some of my best friends are Jewish. They all say that, right? What is he saying? he's saying, I know Goldman, I know Goralski, I know Seif, they're nice guys. But the Jews in general, a rotten nation. They're degenerate. They're racist. They're chosen people believers. They apartheid to the Palestinians. Whatever. They're terrible. You know what I mean? Yeah, I know a couple of good Jews who are exceptions, but the Jewish people, Israel, terrible. That's an anti-Semitic view. How do Jews look at it? Goldman, good for nothing. What does he know? He thinks he's a rabbi, a garnished. The Jewish people, the Jewish people are holy. Jewish people are unique. There's nobody like Mika Amchi Yisrael, who's like the Jewish people. So the Jews have the opposite view of the anti-Semite. The anti-Semite knows a few good Jews, but the people are bad. The Jews say they know a few lousy Jews, but the Jewish people are holy, are righteous. And so that's what we're saying here. Va'amechu, your people are righteous. And therefore, all of Israel are righteous and will have a share in the world to come. Okay, let's move on now to a Mishnah which we did not touch on in previous times, and that's Mishnah 17. Page 548 or 549 in the Art Scroll in the English. Shimon ben Shimon, his son, the son of Rabban Gamliel, he said, Kol yomai godalti bein achachomim. My whole life, all my days, I've been raised amongst the sages. V'lo imatzosi leguf toiv elo shtika. And I saw nothing better for oneself than silence. Silence is golden. You heard that before? That's why you're all on mute. I can't hear a word you're saying. Secondly, v'lo hamedrash ikar elo hamaiseh. Not study, but practice is the main thing. And number three, one who talks excessively brings on sin. So let us see what. Yeah, okay. So let me tell you a little bit about this. So first of all of these three teachings of this Rabbi Shimon have to do with speech. So first he says, there's nothing better for a person than silence. Don't talk so much. And he says, leguf, there's nothing, guf means the body. It doesn't mean the person. Guf means the body. Why does he say there's nothing better for the body than silence? What he means is that when it comes to physical matters, there's nothing better than silence. I've seen people who are really not so clever, but if you don't really know them, they're quiet. They're very silent. And somebody says something, they just give a little wry smile, and they look so wise. Eventually, they open their mouth, and you see they're not so clever. So that's why it's better to be silent, and people think you're clever. As soon as we open our mouths, we give ourselves away. We're not so clever after all, are we? But what he means is that in physical matters, we should talk less. What do we talk about? Unfortunately, often when we get together, we talk nonsense. We talk rubbish. Did I have a steak last night? It was unbelievable. Okay, it's very nice. I'm very glad you had a good steak. But I mean, is that really worthy of an intellectual conversation between intelligent human beings on the value of a piece of flesh, a piece of meat? Surely there are higher things that we can talk about. So when it comes to physical matters, let's be more silent and talk less, because often when it comes to the physical, we don't talk the most important things. What did I say? Simple people talk about people. Average people talk about events. Intelligent people talk about ideas. But the trouble is, we don't always talk about ideas. We often talk about people, we talk about events, we talk rubbish. So therefore, when it comes to the physical, silence is golden. But in
Hello.
matters of spirit, there we need to speak. When you daven, you need to enunciate, articulate the words. Don't daven with your eyes like you're reading a newspaper. You have to daven with your mouth. You have to express the words. If you don't, okay, now they don't want us to daven too loud in shul because of COVID. But generally speaking, we should daven aloud, and we should at least hear it ourselves for sure. When you learn Torah, if you learn aloud, it's better for your concentration and better for your understanding. But at the end of the day, loy hamedrish iker ela hamaise. Study is not the most important thing. The most important thing is deed. So first he's saying that silence is better than words. Now he's saying that deeds are better than words. As good, as important as the words of Torah and prayer are, at the end of the day, what's most important is not what we talk, but what we do. It's not what we say, but what we do. So it's not enough just to talk a good game. We have to walk the talk. What do they call it? We have to practice what we preach. So there was, I think Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, the great teacher of Musar, once said, I'm paraphrasing, but he said more or less, you could be a brilliant ignoramus. How could you be either you're brilliant or you're an ignoramus? How could you be a brilliant ignoramus? What he meant was, you could study a lot and be brilliant. But if you don't translate it into deeds, into action, then you've remained an ignoramus. You missed the whole point. So the whole idea of Torah is to act on what we learn in the Torah. It shouldn't just be intellectual in our brain. We should act on it. Now, in fact, too much talk, the third teaching here, too much talk can lead to actual sin. Because some people, you have talk tactics, conferences and seminars and webinars. Every conference they have these pious resolutions at the end. Does anybody ever act on those pious resolutions? It's Baba Mises, and everybody knows it's Baba Mises, but they have to go through the motions of coming up with some kind of resolution from the conference. The bottom line is action. Look at us in South Africa now. The ANC and the president, may God help him, lead us properly. They're talking about fighting corruption. I've been hearing this, I don't know how many years already. And now they're talking up a storm about fighting corruption. But have we seen any action? Has anybody gone to jail yet? We're still waiting to see Zuma in an orange outfit.
What did he want to do with the donkey? I don't know.
And all his mates.
Just went after them.
So we need action, not just talk.
Yeah. Very. Like a horse.
You know, in the story of Adam and Eve, Adam and Chava, the first sin, you know how the first sin happened, the behind the scenes? The serpent tempted Eve with the apple. It wasn't really an apple, we'll just say the forbidden fruit. The Gemara gives many suggestions. Most think it was a fig. None of the Talmudic opinions say an apple, but that's besides the point. So the serpent gives her the forbidden fruit. She says, no, God said we shouldn't eat from that tree. And we shouldn't even touch the tree. Did God say we shouldn't touch the tree? No, he never said that. So the serpent hears Eve say, and God said we shouldn't even touch the tree. He pushes Eve against the tree. And she thinks lightning is going to strike and she's going to be struck dead. And lo and behold, nothing happens. So the serpent says, you see, you touched the tree and nothing happened. You're fine and dandy. It's a Baba Maisa. It's a myth. God doesn't want you to eat the fruit because you'll be clever like him if you eat it. This is the tree of knowledge. You'll become wise. You'll know all the secrets. So she was convinced and she took a bite and she gave it to her husband. And the rest is history. They were kicked out of the Garden of Eden, and from there came death and sin and all the tzadis started right there with the very first sin in history. How did it start, that first sin? Because she was marbeh devarim. She added words. Whoever adds words
So what did the doctor say was wrong today?
in this Mishnah,
What did the
he
doctor
added
say?
words, and therefore what to say.
Because the baby's too big.
So the mystics say that every one of us have been allotted a certain number, a quota of words to speak in our lifetime. Please God, till 120, we have X number of words.
No, it's 20, yeah,
So
10
you have to be
days.
careful what you speak, you know. Some years ago, quite a few years ago, the late Helen Heldemuth of blessed memory, a friend of ours, she was then running the SABC Jewish programs, and she came to record me for some TV program. And she apologized. She's doing sign language because she had laryngitis. She couldn't speak a word. She had no voice. So I said to
What
her,
does she have
I
to
said,
buy?
Helen, I was very close to her, so I could tease her and get away with it. So I said to
She was going to the
Helen, I
town.
said, you know, the rabbis say that everybody gets a certain quota of words in their lifetime. I think you may have used up your quota. That's why you got laryngitis. She couldn't stop laughing. For the next 3 months, she repeated to everybody that chochmah of mine. But so therefore, we shouldn't waste words either. Okay, we have 5 minutes left. Let me move on to chapter 2 because today we're doing 2 chapters. I don't have much time, but we'll try and quickly do Mishnah 9 in chapter 2, which you'll find on page 552 or 3 in the Art Scroll. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, Kiba Mihul Shammai, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai received the tradition from Hillel and Shammai, and he would say, if you've studied a lot of Torah, don't give yourself credit. Ki lekach noitzarta, because that's what you were created for. That's what you're here for. You know, you're just doing your job. Now, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was the greatest of the great of his generation. He's the famous rabbi who snuck out of the gates of Jerusalem in a coffin, making believe he was there to go negotiate with Vespasian, the Roman general who would later destroy the temple and would become the Roman emperor. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai studied Torah for 40 years and he taught Torah for 40 years. How's that? So he's an unbelievable person. In fact, he saved the Jewish people from extinction. How? Because he saved the Torah. He got out of Jerusalem, which was besieged by the Romans, about to be destroyed, and he impressed General Vespasian of Rome with his wisdom. I'm making a long story short. And he said, okay, I'll grant you 3 wishes. So he did not ask for the temple to be spared because he figured that would be a waste of time. And if you ask too much, you wind up with nothing. The guy's been besieging Jerusalem for ages. He's not going to walk away without getting the job done. So he asked him for 3 things. The main one was Yavne v'chachomeho. He wants the town of Yavne and its sages. He should spare the sages. They should be able to regroup. Jerusalem's going to be destroyed. They should regroup in Yavne and teach the Torah from there. And he was granted that wish, and 2 others. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai rebuilt the Torah and thereby rebuilt the Jewish people and Jewish nationhood, not just Torah, Jewish nationhood, Jewish peoplehood was saved from extinction. If not for Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai doing this, who knows if there would be a Jewish people today? Who knows if there will be in Israel today? We have been exiled from our land more than we've been in our land. The temple, both temples together stood for just over 800 years. We've been exiled nearly 2,000 years. We've had different languages. We've spoken Aramaic, we've spoken Ladino, we've spoken Yiddish, we've spoken Hebrew, English. Even some Jews speak Afrikaans as their first language. Even though Hebrew is our universal language, we don't always have a common language. We don't have a common culture. Ashkenazim eat gefilte fish and Sephardim eat couscous. The only thing common to all Jews on all continents, in all circumstances, throughout the centuries, has been the Torah, and that is what has preserved Judaism and the Jewish people. And if not for Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who knows if we would have it. So he says, if you study Torah, don't take credit. You were born with 2 eyes, 2 ears, arms, and legs. Do you take credit for that? Okay, if you're clever and you concoct something and you patent an invention, or you do a startup, or you're rags to riches, whatever, you come up with some brilliant ideas, you can take credit. But just to study Torah, that's what you're created for. There's no, you don't get big deal for that. Finally, he says, Im lamadata Torah harbe, if you study much Torah, then you taka will not take credit for it, meaning you will be humble. The more Torah you study, the more humble you become. A little knowledge is dangerous. Pseudo scholars are arrogant. The true scholars who really know a lot are humble. Even Albert Einstein once said, the more we learn about the universe, the more we see we don't know, which the Rambam said something very similar, that the ultimate knowledge is to know that we don't really know. So the more in Lamada the Torah Habrit, you study a lot of Torah, then you will not take credit, because you will be humbled by the Torah, and you'll be able to understand that you're just doing your job. I've got to run to shul now, guys, so thank you for joining us. I have to stop the meeting. God bless you all. We'll do chapters 3 and 4, please God, next week. Bye.